The challenge is that we are never happy because we are in this vicious circle. The more we do, the more we get, the more we want, the more we do. So the question is, how do we move from doing to being? But purpose is your why. Everybody is put on earth for a particular reason, and it's not to work. Work is just one part of what you do. It's not about you going alone. It's about you bringing others along with you on the journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Stephanie Marie, and I'm on a mission to spread hope, sharing people's stories to encourage, inspire, and empower you. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Akhtar Badshah to the show. He's a former Microsoft executive leading their philanthropic efforts for over 10 years, where he was instrumental in launching global initiatives called Unlimited Potential and Youth Spark, spearheading the company's focus to bring digital technology to the underserved communities and youth all across the world. Dr. Badshah has written 2 books on purpose, which we are going to talk about in this episode. He has hosted over 100 workshops on the topic of purpose hosted across the globe. Dr. Badshah is the founder of Catalytic Innovators Group, where he advises organizations to catalyze their social and philanthropic investments. And to top it all off, he's also an accomplished artist. I greatly enjoyed talking to Dr. Badshah in this episode on the purpose mindset, which we're going to get into today. So without further ado, let's begin. Hello, Dr. Badshah. Thank you so much for joining. I'm so happy to have you here on the show.
Stephanie, my pleasure to be on the show, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Everything that you're doing on the purpose mindset, really talking to people today. I mean, this is such a timely topic. People really need to hear this message and how important it is, especially in these times today. It's so needed. Can you walk us through your journey from your early career work to what you're doing now, and what moments really shaped your path?
So I have a very eclectic journey. I studied architecture, went to MIT and got my doctorate in architecture, and I taught architecture for a decade at MIT. And then from there, I moved to working for a nonprofit, which was just starting by colleagues from the UN and the World Bank, which was focused on cities, mega cities. And I joined them, mostly focused on how we can get these large agglomerations to learn from each other. I then moved to Seattle because my wife had joined Microsoft in New York at that time. On the East Coast, she moved to Seattle. I moved here, and I started another nonprofit organization, Digital Partners Foundation, which was focused on bridging the digital divide. Late 1999, early 2000, people were talking about the digital divide. The knowledge gap would be much more important than the financial gap. We started this organization, ran it for 4 years. Microsoft came calling, asking me to run the global philanthropy team, which is what I did for a decade. Left Microsoft in 2014 and came back to University of Washington, where I've been teaching at the business school, at the public policy school, and at the Department of Global Health. And in that time that I left Microsoft, I wrote 2 books. One, Purpose Mindset, which is really how Microsoft inspires its employees and alumni to change the world. And then last year, I wrote another book, which is called Living with Purpose, how individuals show up living a life of purpose. I have a podcast which is called Living with Purpose, which actually discusses different people, young people, old people coming and talking about why purpose is important.
That's awesome. That's amazing. What was the turning point for you? You worked at Microsoft, you started a nonprofit. So what was the turning point really for you that you started to think about success and impact and how purpose can really play a role in that, especially for young people too?
To be honest, I really don't think that I was thinking about purpose when I was doing any of this. It was more about just, I got into these different positions because people asked me. And I said yes. The word purpose started becoming important to me when I joined Microsoft. Employees would come to me and say, I have a passion to change the world. I want to work for you. And I was always like, if you have a passion to change the world, why do you need me? Just go change the world. It never really, I could not understand why people wanted to come and work with me to change the world if they could just go out and do something. Go volunteer, go give your time, do something. So for me, it seemed that we were misusing the word passion. That it almost felt like I have a passion, so I should do something, versus I have a purpose and therefore I should show up for the community.
Well, that's interesting. So talk us through really purpose and passion. That's really interesting. I like that distinction, purpose and passion. Let's talk about that.
Right. So passion to me is a very selfish thing. I have a passion to do something, so I do it. Versus purpose is really not about just you. Of course, it is you because you are doing it. But purpose is really about the trinity between you, the work that you do, and the community that you serve.
Right. Well, that's
Whereas
interesting.
passion is just between you and your work.
Mm-hmm. That's
Right? So,
interesting.
so I kind of wanted people to understand that purpose goes beyond just the self. Yes, it starts within the self, but purpose is your why. Everybody is put on earth for a particular reason, and it's not to work. Work is just one part of what you do. So that's the change.
Wow. Wow, that's really interesting. And I think people use the terms purpose and passion probably interchangeably, and they don't really realize that there's two distinct, realities to that. So that's so interesting.
I do want people to show up with passion in whatever they do, but passion and purpose are two completely different things.
Yes, yes, it is. It is. I mean, what's interesting is, like you said, people coming up to you and asking for permission, but really I think they're looking for guidance. And what I think is so interesting what you're doing with the book is I feel that you're guiding people through that, guiding them through the purpose mindset and living with purpose. So what I really want to do today is I really want to offer people who are listening, again, who maybe be hearing this for the first time or realize it's important but don't know how to put it into practice in their life. Let's talk about purpose mindset, how people can really start to put this into practice, and why in your life did this especially feel important for you to explore?
In my book, Purpose Mindset, I highlighted 5 principles, which I think kind of encapsulates how people show up with purpose. So, purpose mindset was really a play on the word of growth mindset.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So like growth versus fixed mindset. We've talked about
Right,
that
so
on
we
the
got fixed mindset versus growth mindset, and again, for me, was you and the work that you do. It's
Right,
all about
right.
you and your work. Purpose is about you, your work, and your community.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I feel like that's so encompassing. Yeah. So people who are listening, if you go back to other episodes, we've talked about the growth versus the fixed mindset, right? And so the growth mindset is you believe like your skills, your talents, your intelligence can grow over time. And your fixed mindset is you believe that whatever you have right now is pretty much all you're going to get for the rest of your life, your intelligence, your skills, etc. So that's really interesting. This is growing off of the growth mindset and then expanding to your community, the people around you, the world, etc. Oh, I love that. I love that.
Right? So first principle is work from your strengths.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we should learn, right? We should not have a fixed mindset. Well, there is a certain value of having a fixed mindset is because the knowledge that you've acquired, you still want to use it. You just
Yes.
can't constantly keep learning new things
Yes.
without
Yes.
really understanding what you already know.
Mm-hmm.
But strengths to me are very important. And this is also a psychological phenomenon. When you
Yes, it
actually
is.
work with your strengths, it releases chemicals that actually makes your brain function far more effectively.
Oh,
And when
wow.
people have a stroke, neuroscientists actually tell them to focus on the side that is strong versus the side
Wow.
that is weak, and the brain imitates. It's called the mirroring concept.
So like the more you use your strengths, the more you're bringing out your strengths, the greater your strengths are going to grow.
Correct.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So first, focus on your strengths. Yes, it doesn't
Yes.
mean that you don't grow and don't learn, but at least focus on your strengths for something that you do.
Yeah, and that's interesting. And a lot of people listening, Dr. Badshah, sometimes people don't know what their strengths are. They don't know what they're good at. And how can people start to know their strengths?
So we have an assessment that we do where we actually get people to identify their strengths. We give them 20 words, we
Yes.
get them to select 3, and then put them in use so they start discovering whether these are their strengths or not. So
Oh, I love
first
this.
is strengths. Second is put on a lens of abundance. What happens is that we always look at it and say, if I had something, I could do this. Just go start. Start.
Yes.
And
Yes.
things will start rolling. So
Like you
people with a
said, yeah.
purpose mindset don't wait for permission. They start.
Mm-hmm.
Third,
Yeah.
particularly today in the age of AI, where our work is so much focused on doing things the right way,
Mm-hmm.
we forget about picking the right thing to do.
It's
So we
interesting.
get trapped into this concept of efficiency and forgetting about effectiveness.
Oh, wow. And yeah, and like I see what you mean. Whereas this is so interesting. I was just talking about this, but basically AI almost stops us from taking action because we're waiting for that perfect response, that perfect moment. Like you said, people are waiting for the right amount of time, the right amount of money to get started, the right amount of resources, the right people to speak to, etc. And you're basically saying there's going to be no perfect time. You know, you're never going to have the perfect amount of motivation. You need to get started.
Correct. So that's the third principle, right?
Yes. Yes.
Focus on being effective rather than being efficient.
I like that.
Pick the right thing to do. The fourth principle is it's all about now creating and launching movements. It's not about organizations. It's not about you going alone. It's about you bringing others along with you on the journey.
Oh, I love
And
that. Like a
that
community.
requires a very different skill set. You don't lead a movement. You conduct a movement. You catalyze a movement. So how do you kind of reframe how you are going to show up? And then the
I love that
final
lens.
principle is how do we move from being generous to empathetic to compassionate? And in doing so, all our actions which are personal, addressing the common good. So it's no longer about the me, but it actually becomes the we and the collective good. We will all be generous, right? Once in a while you're generous, you see somebody, it's an episodic thing.
Okay.
Empathy is where you are actually showing up with deep concern for people that you know, right? You're going to be empathetic to your family, to your deep friends. Compassionate is when you actually transcend that and you show up for everybody.
Wow, I've never heard anybody explain that different.
Now, the challenge is that, of course, the Dalai Lama, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa, these Nobel Prize winners, Malala Yousafzai, they will all show up with great amount of compassion where they are willing to give their lives for somebody else. Most of us are not going to do that and should not. But how do we move on that spectrum from generosity to being compassion? That's when your purpose mindset helps you, where you're no longer just thinking about yourself, but you're thinking about the common.
So these are all of the steps that people can use to kind of kickstart their purpose mindset. And this is really understanding what purpose is. Like you said, going from that lens of what do I want to do? What is my passion, to going of what is my purpose? How can I do this for the greater good, the common good, for the community, etc. So I love that, Dr. Badshah. This is really incredible. And I think really people need to hear this. This is amazing.
So there's one more thing that I actually tell my students and everybody. Look, we have been living a life of doing. We work, we struggle so that we can have. We can have a family, we can have a house, we can have a car, we can have fame, we can have money, so that we can be happy. The challenge is that we are never happy because we are in this vicious circle. The more we do, the more we get, the more we want, the more we
Never
do.
going to be satisfied. Never going to be satisfied.
We are never satisfied. Right? So the question is that how do we move from doing to being?
Wow.
Right? So being is when you really show up with your strengths and values so that anything that you do, you're applying that. And then what you have is contentment, fulfillment, and meaning in the life that you lead. So you go from doing to having to being, doing, having.
In that order.
Right? So now the question is that we are all trained to do. So that's never going to change. So the question is, how do you toggle between these two? How do you start discovering when you're doing and when you're being? And it is very important for us to actually start working on the practice of being, because we know how to do. And that's what we've been trained as. We've been trained through our parents, through our kids, through our school. Keep doing things.
Yes.
But we forget about being. So what I teach and I talk about is how do you be? Even if it is in small doses, what that does is that it increases the satisfaction quotient. It increases your contentment. It starts making you more fulfilled, and it starts then giving you meaning.
I love this. Many people think that happiness is the goal, right? I want to be happy. Happiness is a feeling. So I love this focus from happiness to fulfillment, and that how purpose really brings out this distinction between doing and being, because doing is like this productivity loop that we're stuck in, right? This hustle culture. I was just talking about that recently with someone. And then from being, and I think this is so interesting because I led a group on, it was a mental health program. And something that I learned is when I would ask a question and there was silence, I would always fill up the silence. I was uncomfortable with silence and I would just keep talking. And then eventually I learned I need to be comfortable with the silence. And I think in our life, we're not comfortable with moments of silence. That's why we fill it with our phone and why we fill it with doom scrolling and we fill it with everything around us, is because we're not used to being, just being in ourselves, in our bodies, in our experiences, in our feelings, our thoughts. And so this is why I think that this is so relevant, and how purpose is really the glue that kind of brings this all together. I love this.
So the other thing I would love to tell the audience is Carl Jung said this best. Even a life full of happiness has to be measured with some amount of sadness. Otherwise, the word happy would lose its meaning. So we shouldn't really be focused on happiness. We should really be focused on taking life as it comes with patience and equimanity.
Can you say that last term?
Equimanity, right? Patience
what
and
is that?
equimanity. So the point being, happiness is a singular pursuit. I can be happy, you can be sad, we could be sitting in the same room together, and I would not know the difference because I'm happy.
Like you
Joy.
said, focus on the self.
Joy is a collective exercise. I cannot be joyful without you participating in that activity. So how do we get people, young people, to actually think about getting joy in their life? And joy comes because we do collective action. And purpose allows you to do that collective action, right? It allows us to go beyond just bonding networks to bridging networks.
This is incredible. Wow. I'm like taking notes because this is so incredible. I truly love hearing this. And I think that young people especially need to hear this because what we're really taught is more money, a better job, better status, more power. That's going to make you happy. And I think that, you get in that trap where you're never going to be satisfied. You're never going to reach a point where I'm like, I'm perfectly happy, always going to experience stress, always going to experience pain. And so I love this focus on joy, this focus from doing to being, from happiness to fulfillment, from being generous or just being kind to being compassionate. This is a mindset switch because this does not happen overnight. This is going to take people time to cultivate.
But just think of it. We do it all the time. We go to a game, we experience joy because it's a collective. Sports teams and artists, performing artists, are great at creating fans.
Yes.
You become
It's a group.
Taylor Swift, you're a Swiftie. Doesn't matter. You're a fan. And that brings you joy. Because there is somebody that is actually giving you collective joy. So our sports teams do that, right? Whether you win or not, you still go enjoy the game and you come back. You're upset for a little bit, but you say, okay, let's go to the pub and, have a merry old time. So the question becomes that we've kind of got ourselves trapped into this piece of it's not about making money. People can make money. I have no restrictions. You go make money. But how do you do it and how do you show up? It's not about giving back. It's not about doing philanthropy. It's actually about showing up. And if you showed up every day for yourself, for your family, for your community, for your faith, for your work, where you're using your strengths and values, even in small doses, then you become much more fulfilled, you become much more content, you start getting meaning, then your health improves, your productivity improves, you just become a better person.
I love this. If you ever see like the Instagram quotes or a lot of people talking about find your purpose, right? And I think that it's a term that is overused and underexplained. This is bringing together your strengths, this is bringing together your community, your values, meaning, fulfillment, and being in yourself and being with others and sharing that joy together. So I just love this concept, Dr. Badshah. We talked a lot about the misunderstandings when it comes to, like you said, with passion and purpose. So I want to talk about bringing this to the scene that we're seeing with young people. A lot of young people today say that they are lacking a sense of purpose. And, like I said, they realize that it's important, but they don't know their particular purpose. Another thing is that many people that are young people, like I mentioned, emerging professionals, people just graduating, they feel this pressure to find like perfect career and that aligns with their purpose, right? There's a lot of stress surrounding it. So what do you think's really going on there? And what's your advice to them?
So part of it is that first, I have an assessment that I do with people.
Yes.
Where we actually get them to articulate their strengths and their values and craft a purpose statement. And then I run retreats where I actually get them to understand how do you take that and apply it for yourself.
Yes.
But if you just start off with identifying your strengths and your values, and then keep a journal and see whether you're using it or not. What might happen is you might select a word as, say, I'm a good communicator as your strength, or you're a visionary as your strength. But after 3 weeks of reflection, you may find that's not really what it is. You may talk to your friends, you may talk to your colleagues, and they may tell you this is actually what you're good at. Then start doing it in small doses. And it doesn't have to be just for work. Do it for yourself, do it for your family, do it for your community, do it in your faith, do it at your work. And as it builds up, the muscles that you need to use become strong. So what I want all of us to realize is that you will never find all of your purpose through work. For most of us,
Yes. Yes.
work is work. When we do these workshops in companies, we actually try and get people to find connection between their personal purpose and an organizational purpose.
Mm.
And then look at where their strengths and values are coming together. And it's never going to be alignment.
Mhm.
Because if you're seeking alignment, it is never going to happen. But you will find small areas of connection and then work on it and build it and make that little strand stronger and stronger. And once it becomes strong, then you start getting much more fulfillment. And then it's also much more resilient, where in times of stress, it will not break. You will always get frustrated at work. I get frustrated because right now I'm trying to order some journals. How many journals are there and designs are there? And it's so irritating and annoying to figure this out. But then I get to do these other things, which gives me purpose and meaning and joy. So it's then that balance starts coming in, right? Life is not all about work. You're never going to find that perfect career. Some will, but it's always going to come with change. I've changed. A new job in every decade. I've done something completely new that I had no qualifications. That's only because of what I learned through my experience. And people gave me that opportunity because of the experience I brought, not because of the knowledge I had.
And showing that you wanted that, and showing that you wanted to learn also. That's a huge piece.
Correct. So one piece of advice is don't say no. When you say yes, a sliver of a door opens up and you can always walk in and walk back up. But at least you get to explore an opportunity. So be curious. Take risks. Not big risks, but some risks. Explore. People are looking for those that are going to take initiatives.
So
It's
that makes a
never
big
going to
difference.
be your qualifications. Just because you've got a PhD doesn't mean a thing, because that's a piece of paper. It is what you do with it and how you use it makes a difference,
Yes, how you apply it.
right? So these small habits that you need to form, atomic habits, little habits, and small things that you do that bring you joy, that bring you fulfillment, that bring you contentment, that motivate you, start doing that and bring that into your work. Don't wait the work to give you the fulfillment and the motivation.
This is really interesting because I seen something somewhere and I have to pull it up, but more young people are looking for, when they're looking for a job, more and more young people are seeking that purpose from their work. And again, like you said, there's nothing wrong with wanting to contribute all of your strengths and your talents and your values to your work. But I love this message that you're bringing, is that, you can infuse that into all areas of your life. Don't just put this pressure on, oh, I need to find my purpose through my 9 to 5. And so I love that this focus on purpose is your whole life. And so I think people are starting to realize that more people are having side hustles. They're doing work on their own. They're doing meaningful work that they love on their weekends, on their evenings. But I love this focus that you're sharing.
Yeah, to me, I know we kind of use these, but we kind of trapped ourselves, right? By where we created that we work and then we do other things. Instead of we show up in different arenas. At different times, we show up in different arenas to do different activities. Our whole world is, I've got to go earn a living. Yes, we all have to earn a living, but you're showing up differently. And by just shifting these little narratives in your brain, releases these chemicals that actually make you feel far more fulfilled. And no job is going to be perfect. I mean, even a CEO of a Fortune 500 company is under tremendous stress because they have to keep earning that much revenue for the company.
Right.
Otherwise, they're out. So you may look at it, oh, that's a fantastic. Oh, you look at these superstars.
Glamorizing it, right? Yes,
Right?
glamorizing
I mean, and there are these phenomenal athletes, but the amount of effort they put into it on a daily basis when they're not on the court, they are grinding. Every day they are grinding. They are doing their routines. They have trainers and they have diets and they have, but you only see them when they show up on the red
Yes.
carpet and they look all fancy and glamorous.
And so this is great because everything that you're doing outside of your job is going to help you. All of these skills, these strengths, these talents you're cultivating, any of the hobbies, everything you're doing on the side, it's going to show up whether or not people realize it. Though everything's going to show up so you can be your best self when you show up. to work. And so you can make an impact with people. Another thing, Dr. Badshah, I love how you talk about seizing opportunities at hand. When you get that opportunity, you say yes, and then you learn how to do it. So you say yes, and I'm going to learn how to do it. You don't just say, no, I don't know how to do it. You can learn as you go. You can learn on the job. You can learn as you're doing things. I love this focus.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I think for young people, have a little bit of unreasonableness in you. Don't take no for an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to fail because you will
that's
fail.
important. Well, that's so important because, like you said, with AI, like we're taught something I was talking about in a recent episode is how I think that putting aside, even if someone is not using AI in their work or in their school, right? Put this aside. What AI is teaching us is that we need to have the perfect response. Everything needs to be perfect, right? When we used to write emails, there used to be little mistakes. Now it is a perfect email, right? It's a perfectly crafted email where it almost sounds non-human now. But like those mistakes and everything are what make us human. So what I think that the lens that AI is teaching us, even if you don't use it day to day, is it's teaching us that before I take action, I need to have the perfect response, the perfect action. But meanwhile, you're taking away that process. You need to learn along the way. You need to keep going. You need to fail and make mistakes and get back up and keep going. So I want to bring it into AI really with this.
Right. I mean, yesterday I was having a conversation with some students. These are all doing entrepreneurship competition, young undergrads at University of Washington. And we got onto this topic of AI.
Yes.
And I was saying that mistakes were so much fun. Right? You had a boo-boo, and then that became a story.
Well, they don't feel like it in the moment, but as you keep going, when you can tell it, and when you look back.
Hey, now you want a perfect life, and perfection doesn't give you variety. Right? Oh, I sent a wrong email to my boss. Oh my God. And then you can laugh at it, right? Because, your boss is also human and understands that, people make mistakes. And that becomes a story to tell. Right? Today, craft, you want to go on a vacation, I'm doing the same thing. ChatGPT, 7 days and it times you everything. And that's not how we were built. We went into these new communities and we just explored. We just wandered. We got lost. Now you can't even get lost.
And another thing that's missing is, really just taking time of just doing nothing. Of course, mindfulness is so important and people are starting to realize this. But I mean, again, it's hard to block off an hour of your day to just do nothing, or even if it's 5 minutes, right? We're not used to sitting in silence, sitting with our own thoughts, doing nothing. Like being bored is not a thing anymore because we're just filling it with entertainment.
Correct. And, I was reflecting the other day. I said, now you go into the cities. I mean, the whole point of going into a new place was to get lost. And when you got lost, you discovered things that you would never discover. Now everything is precise. Every door you're going to enter into a new community, you've already predetermined. So then you haven't really discovered anything. The act of discovery is getting lost in this preciseness of the world that we want. And what I'm actually trying to get young people to understand is just be yourself, be authentic. You'll never walk in somebody else's shoes. Walk in your own shoes. That's your journey. That's your life. That's why you were created. That's why you were put on this planet. At times, just lift yourself up a little bit. Artemis 2 once again showed us this uniqueness of humanity. Once again, it reminded us from the pictures of 1968 to what we saw a few weeks back of our planet, which has no boundaries, has no differences. It's this one little globe. This is this pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam.
Puts it in perspective.
And that's who we are. With all our differences, all our uniqueness, all our authenticity, show up with that. That makes it so much more fun.
It does. It does. And I think, Dr. Badshah, I think social media plays a really big role into this because I seen a quote today, actually. It's so interesting. When you're looking at people's lives on social media, you're seeing probably not even 1% of their life, right? People are posting the highlight reels. People are posting the, the vacations and these things. And we think, and a lot of people compare themselves to that because they think that that is real life, and it's not. And so I think that social media plays a role in, like you said, kind of stunting that action because for fear of that, it's not perfect. And so therefore they're not going to take action. And I think the media, like you said, media, AI plays a huge part into this.
Yeah. I mean, so for my message is purpose is that renewable source of energy that continues to guide humanity forward. Purpose is seriously your light switch. You can turn it on or you can turn it off. If you turn it on, you dispel darkness. So how do you walk into a room with purpose, with intention, with your strengths and your values? Which doesn't mean that you're drawing attention to yourself, but which just means that you are actually very comfortable in your skin.
Well, that's such an incredible perspective. Because like we said, I think people are taught to not feel comfortable in their skin, to mimic what other people look like, what other people are doing. This so focused on away from your true self and focusing on, what's the term? Fitting in. Focusing on fitting in, not being authentic. And so I think that nowadays, especially, I feel that these skills are more and more important, because now those skills are going to shine, because everything is going to sound the same with AI, with social media. Everything's going to sound and look the same. Now, when you're being your authentic self, it's almost like, wow, it comes to the center, because it rises above, I feel. What do you think people most need to hear right now that they're not hearing enough of?
First of all, we are living in extraordinary times.
Mhm.
And this is great. You're alive. You only die once. You live every day. So live every day. Wake up every day and live. And do something that is meaningful. And that doesn't mean you've suddenly made massive change. I go for a walk. Every day I walk 5 miles. That's my time. And I will smile at people who walk past me. And now people smile back at me. And many times they smile now before me, because they're the same people. We don't know each other. We walk on the
Right.
same path. And the point being that it just releases certain chemicals for me and chemicals for the other person. And that's your small little gift to yourself. That adds meaning to my day. So find little things, right? People love to sing. People love to listen to music. People love to paint. People love to draw. Find these things. We are all have multiple skills. The problem is that we get good at one thing and that's all we then focus on.
Mhm.
But there are other things that you may not be fully proficient in, but that's also part of you.
Mm.
So do that, because that makes you complete,
Mm. Oh, I love that.
right? Just because you're not a professional singer doesn't mean that you actually don't enjoy singing.
Mm.
So sing. It may just be in the bathroom, which is fine for two friends. But if you stifle that, then you start feeling that hollowness. Then you start feeling something missing,
Mm.
which is not being fulfilled by your work, because it will never be. No, so that's when you start getting frustrated. Because then you say, hey, I'm not a professional singer, because that's the person that is actually getting their purpose. But no, go sing.
Yeah, yeah. I think going back to what you said about like writing your strengths down. Also write a list. I never call them weaknesses. It's not strengths and weaknesses. I never call them weaknesses. I call them things you want to improve. And so also make a list of things you want to work on too. And like you said, I think sometimes we just take that list and we're like, I'm going to toss it away. I don't know that. I'm not good at that. Or no, that's really where, if you're good at something and you're good at it, there's really not much room to grow. This is where you're going to grow. Take a list of things that spark your curiosity that you want to keep learning from. And that's really where sometimes people find skills, or they end up in roles where they're like, I would have never ended up in that role. But then you learn along the way.
What I want people to be careful about is strengths is not just, it's not a particular kind of action. Strengths is a phenomena in you. What I'm trying to say is your brains are wired that way. So it's not about constant improvement, because constant improvement, what happens is that a lot of people actually get stifled because they don't see improvement.
Mm.
What I'm saying is that, yes, learn, continue to grow, but in small doses. Make sure you show up with what you are good at doing.
Mhm.
When you do that on a weekly basis, it releases chemicals in your brains that actually give you satisfaction and contentment, which then allows you to learn more, which allows you to grow more, doesn't get you frustrated, and it keeps you sane.
Yeah.
And this is a medical phenomena, by the way. I've been squint
Whoa.
in my right eye. And as a child, they did a surgery because your muscle at the back is loose, the eyeball keeps moving.
Mhm.
With age, the muscle becomes weak, and I, had dual vision. So I had to go get surgery done. And the ophthalmologist basically said, "Hey, it's a very simple thing, outpatient, 45 minutes, but I can't touch your right eye because it's too weak."
Mm.
So I said, "What are you going to do? Make me look like this or like that?" And he said, "No, I'm going to go into your left eye and pick your brain." And that's what he did. He shoved a needle down my left eyeball, and God knows what he did. So there is a medical value to strength.
Oh, did it help? Did it help?
Yes, I mean, I don't have dual vision. It's been like this now for 11 years. So what I'm trying to say is strengths releases chemicals into your brain that gets your brain to do things that you would not ordinarily do. The lesson was that basically what the ophthalmologist said is that your left eye is strong, your right eye is weak. I'm going to work on your left eye and trick your brain so that your right eye also becomes strong. So what actually the lesson is, focus on the side that you're good at. When you do things that you're good at, that also has ripple effects on things that you're not good at.
Okay, I see. I love that. I like
Right?
that a lot.
At least start with doing things that you're good at.
Yes. Yes.
That gives you momentum to move forward, which then allows you to do things that you're not good at.
Right. Yeah. That's incredible. That's incredible.
So
I
when you
love that.
think about it from a work perspective, into managers, we actually tell them, hey, this person has this job, great. But make sure that as part of the job, give them something, little doses of what they're really good at. Because that then gives them the energy to continue doing things and learning. But if you just put them in this space and say, you have no idea about this and just go learn, and if you're never going to be able to learn it, then you're just going to get depressed.
There's this balance. Yeah, there's this balance between your strengths, what you're good at already, and what you can kind of keep continuing and thrusting forward, and then also what you want to learn and what you want to get good at. I think they call that like your flow state, where if something's too hard, then you're going to be like, oh no, I'm going to just stop doing that because it's too hard. It's like it's too much stress around it. But if something's too easy, then you're going to be like, oh, this is too easy. I'm getting bored. So you need this balance between what you're good at and what you want to improve on, and then it's like this flow state, they call it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, reaching that flow state. And so, Dr. Badshah, I want to weave this into your job at Microsoft. People were coming to you. They knew they wanted to make an impact, but they were kind of asking you, kind of looking at you for validation, for permission. I want to kind of weave in your lessons at Microsoft that you were at for, you said, for a decade, right? And so can we weave that into purpose?
So to me is that we always feel that we need permission to go do something because we feel that, hey, I don't have the skill sets to do it. My advice to everybody is just start. Start somewhere. Start. Show up. If this is an area that you like, go there. Sit, listen. Maybe at first you might not be able to contribute too much. But if you show up in regularity, you will. Because then you will learn. Then you will show up. So the point is this mindset of abundance. The lens of abundance is really what that is, right? We are always looking for permission to do something. And I'm saying put on a lens of abundance. If you believe in something that you want to do, start. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for resources. Start small. Go volunteer somewhere. And you don't have to start something big. Go volunteer somewhere, learn, just show up for an hour every week. Show up for an hour every other week. Start somewhere. And that act of starting is that's the most difficult one.
Yeah, I think so, because I think so many people have great ideas, great endeavors they want to do. And I think, like you said, they know they want to do it. They're ready to go. And I think they're just waiting for that person to say, here, go. And here, get started. I mean, some places people have that. They will have people, and it kind of reaffirms that. But in most cases, people don't have that. You just need to start.
And at Microsoft, we were fortunate enough that we were able to incentivize that starting. Because we were essentially able to say to people, hey, if you want to go volunteer at a nonprofit organization of your choice.
Yes.
Keep track of your hours, and we'll match that time with dollars to that nonprofit organization. So we kind of got people off the chair and said, okay, hey, great, I've got an incentive. If I go, volunteer at my Boys and Girls Club or the PTO, the school will get a little bit of money. If I go at the robotics club or the math club or the drama club and give my time, they will get some money because Microsoft will write a check. So that became the ability, and that's what then people started discovering aspects of what they were good at. And that gave them fulfillment, that gave them meaning, that gave them, they stayed at Microsoft because this was an incentive that they were getting. They also felt that they were showing up for the community. They learned much more about the community. So that's really what we learned at Microsoft.
That's such an incredible encouragement. And the idea of it is, why would a company do this? Is because it encourages their employees to do something outside of work that's going to help them show up to be a better employee. So in the turn, it also benefits the company. And so do you recommend that companies do this?
But it's also, you show up in the community, right? Just because I work for Microsoft doesn't mean I don't live in Seattle. I live in Seattle, and I will need the resources of Seattle at some point. So go show up. contribute to those resources. And you can't be outside of the world that you're living in, because your kids are going to go to school, you're going to get married in that community, you're going to live there, you're going to drink that water, you're going to use the roads, contribute, right? So that's the incentive, right? So there are thousands of people that get hired by companies who become part of your citizenship of that community, and you've got to be able to get them incentives to show up in that community. And if you do that, then people actually see and say, hey, this guy from Microsoft is showing up. Microsoft is a good company. It gives a good name. The reputation increases. Of course, the employees are happy. The retention keeps going up. So it's a nice virtuous circle.
It is. It is.
And the cost is minimal.
It is. I mean, to the growth of the company and to the growth of the employee, investing in their employees. I love that. And one other thing that I wanted to mention was going back to what you said is I think that there's this focus on, when we grow up, when we're asked I was asked countless of times growing up in middle school. I recall being asked countless of times, what do you want to do? Oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher, right? We're focused on asking children and expecting them at 5 years old and under to know what do they want to do rather than focusing on. So I think shifting this focus to who do you want to be? Never been asked that question. No one talks about that question. So stop asking people as much this pressure of what I would say is this pressure on this question, what do you want to do? And I think it kind of centralizes that in our life and makes that the focus. And I think shifting to who do you want to be? Who do you want to become? What are the skills, the talents, the values that you want to cultivate in yourself as a person? And like you said, work is one part of your life.
I completely agree, right? I mean, I've been guilty of that, right? I mean, as parents, you're growing up and say, be an engineer, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be this. And the kid is, I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? And instead of saying, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be in service of? And you might actually decide that I want to be in the service of healing. And being a doctor is not the way that you want to heal. You might actually become a nurse. Or you may become a bioscientist.
Right, or a therapist.
First, discovering that big theme that you are actually interested in allows you to then look at how you want to show up in a very different way. But instead, we basically say, go become a doctor. And then they hate being a doctor.
But really, they just wanted to care for people. They just wanted to be there for
But they could have gone into a profession of caring where they could have been a perfectly fantastic nurse.
I see that. I love that. And so, Dr. Badshah, this has been a great conversation. So if someone just listens to 5 minutes of this, there's so much they can pull out of this. And everything you're explaining is so deep. I honestly think that it's something new in a way. I know that this is a thing people have been talking about for centuries, but it's a new focus because I think people are realizing, especially I believe after the pandemic, where we kind of had that time where we didn't know what to do with ourselves, and we had time to sit with ourselves and look at our loved ones and everything and realize what's important. We're kind of shifting and turning back to this. We need to come back to basics. We need to come back to ourselves, come back to our community. And I think it really shifts the focus. And it's so needed. It really is. And I want to ask you, of course, the focus of this podcast is hope. So I'd love to ask you, what role has hope played in your journey and how do you hold on to it today?
Hope is all we have, right? I mean, hope is human and we need, and joy, purpose, contentment, meaning, they all point to hope. Hope is the light. Hope is not about darkness. Hope is the light. And clearly, you would not recognize light if there is no darkness.
That's
so
true.
Clearly, there is a balance. Otherwise, if you just light, you would not know the difference between light and dark.
Yeah, you need that balance.
So, but hope gives you the ability to continue to move forward. And humanity only survives on hope. It does not survive on despair.
That is true. That is
Right?
true. And
Hope is all that keeps us moving forward, day to day, year to year, centuries to centuries. Hope allows you to come up with new things. Hope allows you to come about future. Hope allows us to invest. Hope allows us to have kids, because that's what drives humanity forward.
Does.
So to me, hope is the central thing that you wake up every day. That's why I say, hey, I live only one life. I mean, I live every day. I only have one day. So if I live every day, it's hope that gets you. And that
really is.
Tomorrow is going to be better, but that there will be a tomorrow.
There is. And, I hear so many people especially in my generation, that say, I don't know my purpose. I don't know what the future holds, right? And that can be like bring people to really discouragement, to despair, really feeling lost in that darkness. So I want to say, what's your message to people that say, I don't know my purpose. I don't know if I have a purpose. What's your
Most
message
of us
to
don't
them?
know what our purpose is, right? So we're not grown up with a little sticker that says this is your purpose, right? There's
Right.
no little thing that came and said, Mary, this is your purpose, you're born with this purpose.
You
No.
have to find it. You have to cultivate it. You have to grow through it.
So the way I think about it is discover your strengths and your values. That's
Start
in your
there.
control.
Mhm.
You can invest in that. You can invest in that time. You can actually think about it. And as you show up with your strengths and your values, you start figuring out what your purpose is. Purpose is really a agglomeration of your experiences and your memories. So for some kids, it happens early on because that's how they've been brought up with their parents or grandparents or somebody in their life. And for others, it's a journey that they discover. But if you show up with your strengths and values, you are showing up with purpose.
And there's no timeline. There's no timeline. Every person
Yeah.
is on their own journey.
It
Yeah.
will continue to change and evolve as your life situation does. For people that go from school to college, something changes. You get a job, something changes. You get married, something changes. You have kids, something changes. You have an accident, something changes. You become old like me, something changes. So there will always be this evolution. But to me, the important thing is show up with your strengths and values. And it's not just about you. It's about the common good.
Oh, I love this. Do you feel that I'm kind of going off on a whim here, but do you think that our focus when it comes to really focusing on the common good is not really focused on that as much?
This country started with that. We started with the common good. Everything we did was with the community.
Mm-hmm.
The homes we built, barn raising, was a community effort. Hunting was a community effort. Everything was a collective effort.
Then it became a soul
Individualized.
effort, right? Yeah, it
Right. Then
became
it became individualized, which doesn't mean you don't focus on yourself.
yes, because you need yourself to show up for that community.
But focus on yourself by not just for your personal benefit,
Yes,
but
I
how
see.
you are contributing and investing back into the community in which you're going to live and thrive in.
Hmm. I've really learned so much through this. If anyone listening to this and they didn't hear the rest, what the purpose mindset has taught me is shifting this intense pressure, this intense focus towards doing. I need to do, it needs to be perfect. I need to find the perfect job, the perfect career, towards being. Shifting the focus from happiness, which again, I feel like our society focuses so much effort towards. I need to be perfectly happy. That's the goal. Chasing happiness. Shifting this focus to fulfillment, to contentment, towards community. This focus from self to community with others. Shift from just soul happiness to joy and compassion. I think this is the lessons that people need to hear. Getting back to basics, getting back to one another, really seeing our community around us. Sometimes I think people just need to look up, see the people around you, turn around, see people around you, because we're so focused on our own success, our own power, our own ambition. Purpose kind of starts with the community. It starts with that community lens. Thank you, Dr. Badshah, for everything that you shared with us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
If this message has resonated with you, please be sure to like, share, subscribe for weekly episodes, and also click the bell notification so you get notified when I release a new episode. And let us know down below what has been your favorite part shared with us today. Thank you for listening and have a fabulous day. Bye.